So we're halfway through Vlogmas, and it occurs to me that I have been a little bit remiss. I have done lots and lots of terrain for sort of woodland and stuff like that, but I've done absolutely nothing for modern or futuristic. So let's have a wee kit bash. This is an old inkjet printer cartridge, and it's already got a, lovely shape to it. There are a few things that we'll need to do. Obviously the logos are going to have to go, and there's some serial number markings on there. That piece of plastic will have to go, but let's sort out a kit bash and make this into like a power generator. First thing to do is make something for covering over those manufacturers' marks. And for that, what I am going to use is this. This is like the strapping plastic that you get on big cartons, TVs, things like that. It's the stuff that's sort of wrapped around the sides of it. And it's got a lovely crisscross pattern, which will take a great dry brush of metal to make it look like, meshwork. But we don't want it on both sides, and I do want it sitting a little bit flatter. So the first thing I'll do is just give it a wee rough over with the sandpaper, just to get it flatter on one side. So they're cut out and glued in place, and there as well. So that's all the markings covered. Now what I want to do is make some little surrounds for them. I could use paper or reclaimed card, but what I am going to use is this. It's Cosplay Crafters EVA foam. And the reason I'm doing that is because they are still slightly raised, and I don't want, to show an undercut. And this foam, with it being a little bit flexible, it'll just be able to stick down around the edges far better. So I will get those cut down and glued on. Now that I've got those surrounds on, let's start prettying up some of those blank sides. I think what I'm going to do is a couple of big doors on one side, and then I'll use gribbly bits to make sort of control paneling on the other. So I'll get the doors done first, and then we'll work on the other side. Alright, some doors on with hinges made out of old bits of sprue and a paper clip cut down for some handles. Speaking of sprue, this is one, I think it's a Bandai model, and there's a few bits of manufacturing detail that go on the sprue. So there's some dials there, and I just spotted that number, so they are going to be the first part of the gribbly bits. And I'll check through the other sprues and see what other accoutrements can be put on. So I'll start getting things cut out. Alright, gribbly's done on this side. Some nice big slidey switches to control the power. Some dials on there. Before I go much further, what I am going to do is be making a baseboard for it. And this is an old plastic plate, and I am going to have to unfortunately use pretty much all of it, because I want sort of 3 squares clear, which is a little bit larger than a 25mm base. And of course, with it being round, you do lose the bits at the edge. But I am using this because it is built-in floor tiling. Really hard to come by these nowadays. I've had this one hoarded for a good dozen years. Alright, I will cut that down and mount it onto something else to make it a little bit more durable, because it is a bit on the sort of flimsy side. And we are almost ready for a paint job. One more thing I am going to do before this goes off for a paint job, I'm going to get some of these. These are just clear plastic beads that the wife has used for a project of hers, and I am going to glue them together so that we'll have, one of those sort of like big ceramic insulator thingies, and they will stack on the end because I'm going to be putting some cables in there. So I will get on with that, and then I think it's probably time for painting. While the other pieces are drying, I am going to quickly knock up a wiring loom. This is just a spool of cheap wire that I managed to pick up. I am going to leave a reasonable amount of excess, and because we've got 3 terminals at the top, I am going to cut 3 pieces of wire, and now I want to join them at the bottom, kind of like that. Obviously make sure you don't stick your fingers to it. Now let's have some harnessing, and this is just painter's tape, and I want a small strip. Just wrap that around like that, same distance, wrap that around like that. Then I'm after a piece of plastic tubing. Just gave the end a little bit of a sand to get it flat, and then that will stick in like that. Dab super glue around the end, work that on in place, and that will be the pipe where it disappears off into the floor. Assembly next up. Okay, everything has had a lick of paint on it. It is time to do the final assembly. Right, that is all done for assembly, and now just a wee bit of a weathering coat. I'll do a bit of dry brush on grey on those, and then I am going to use an Army Painter weathering dip just to make it look a bit more oily, and then that is pretty much done. I appreciate I've probably broken the rules with the size of that base. That's not going to fit inside a Christmas cracker. But hey, there's always somebody that manages to overindulge and gets a bigger present for somebody than they should have. Sue me. Anyway, I will see you again tomorrow with another project. Bye for now.